You know, in the UK, there's been some major developments in the media that they just couldn't keep under hush. I mean, you know, we've got the Queen over there and her royal satanic family sacrificing people on their own property on New Year's Eve. All things that they do regularly, blood rituals, hunts. They have hunts. The elite have hunts. They actually hunt slaves, people that they have kidnapped, people that they have mind controlled. Part of this whole MK-Ultra sex trafficking mind control program through the CIA. It is all connected. This is the order. These are the people we're dealing with. This is the organization, the secret government, the secret elite. And the royal family is a big part of it. And they're working to gain control again like it was the monarchies that they were, but only them. They rule, the elite. And they control us all through a world government with puppets put in place to believe that the people are voting for, you know, Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or whatever fraud that they put in there that continues moving the country into socialism, into totalitarianism, into civil unrest and economic deprivation, everything that's been happening. So Britain's been rocked by this incessant pedophile scandal with this guy named Jimmy Savile, who was involved in a widespread case that was publicized. Not too much here, and of course they don't say much at all here in the United States in the media. Nothing that would lead anybody to any thoughts that the elite could have something to do with things are whitewashed or just omitted. So Savile, who was a DJ and BBC television presenter, famous guy, assaulted up to 1,000 girls and raped girls and boys on the BBC's premises alone, with many accusing BBC executives of turning a blind eye to his nefarious activities. Savile was a man who looked much like a pedophile. He actually looked like a pedophile, ladies and gentlemen. He looked as much like a pedophile as one possibly could, and was known to have been connected to Prince Charles. What a shock. Raising serious questions as to the British royal family's involvement and knowledge of Savile's sadistic behavior. The crimes of the former presenter of Jim'll Fix It, that's the show that he was, the British show, are only the tip of the iceberg, however, as the pedophile epidemic clearly permeates into the highest echelons of the British establishment, and it does. And they sacrifice a lot of these boys. They kill them, and girls, in horrific, torturous ways you cannot imagine, and I won't go into now. But if you could think of the most horrible way you could ever murder and torture somebody, you're there. Basically skin these children alive. The UK's Home Security Secretary, Theresa May, stated in March that pedophilia is woven covertly into the fabric of our society. So that's what she's trying to do, is she's trying to normalize it. This is, again, similar to what I was talking about here on a recent video about euthanasia, with the article written by Janet Phelan. This is what's going on here. This is the connection. Actually, they're very related. So the UK's Home Secretary, Theresa May, stated in March that pedophilia is woven covertly into the fabric of our society. A harrowing truth that the people of Britain will have to confront if a microcosm of justice is to be delivered to the victims of such malevolent crimes. It seems every passing month brings a new revelation pertaining to alleged crimes committed against children by leading political figures, and a subsequent cover-up by the establishment. The month of July was no different, as evidence surfaced in which indicated that the MI5 cover-up for members of Margaret Thatcher's government who were accused of abusing children. Newly released documents showed that the Director General of MI5 from 1985 to 88, Anthony Duff, told Thatcher's cabinet secretary that an unnamed MP had a penchant for small boys. This is not unusual in these circles. It's also one of the reasons why they're pushing this behavior of homosexuality being normal and gay marriage. It's all part of this transformation that Obama talks about. Newly released documents show that this director, in a letter to the cabinet secretary, reveals that he accepted the MP's denial of any wrongdoing, largely on the basis that, quote, at the present stage, the risks of political embarrassment to the government is rather greater than the security danger, unquote. The former MI5 boss clearly writes that the political embarrassment of such a revelation being released to the public is more important than protecting innocent children from harm. Can you think of a more repugnant act than covering up for an alleged pedophile who inflicts so much pain, suffering, and psychological trauma on their victims? These people's lives are ruined, ladies and gentlemen. MI5 is also accused of being complicit in covering up rampant sexual abuse at the Kincora's children's home in the north of Ireland, which is what Amnesty International called one of the biggest scandals of our age. And this is all the same thing. Remember, the MI5, the CIA, the Mossad, they're all one and the same order, working for the same goal, the New World Order. It is a Illuminism. It is the Illuminati doctrine, which comprises of all of these ideologies, from fascism to socialism to communism, and of course Zionism. It's all the same, no different. I mean, do you think that the Zionists, the way they treat the Palestinians, is much different than the way that Nazis treated the Jews? What irony is there? And that religious Jews abhor Israel and realize that Israel cannot have a state until they believe the Messiah comes, and they don't believe the Messiah came yet. So how can there be a state of Israel? They are against it. You go into Jewish neighborhoods, Orthodox Jewish neighborhoods, and you will not see an Israeli flag anywhere in the United States, especially in Williamsburg, New York, where there are the highest population per capita in the nation. Not one flag. There's a reason. Because of these secret societies, all working in concert, all with different names, all calling things different. Notice how progressivism is now communism, but progressivism doesn't sound like communism, right? It's just like global warming is now not called global warming, they call it climate change. So, it's all propaganda so that they can manipulate us to do their bidding and move ourselves and to literally enslave ourselves in this system. That's why we must stop it. And pedophilia and degradation of our society and disrespect for life and abortion and assisted suicide, these are all means to their end. Make no mistake about it. This is what they're doing. It's happening. Wake up to it. So, we know now that these things happened in Northern Ireland. Rampant sexual abuse at the Kincora Children's Home. MI5. Well, what a shock. The UN's been caught with DynCorp trafficking children. Then they make movies about busting trafficking rings and things like that. It's just unbelievable. Get us to believe that the CIA are these noble Americans, patriots. As the Belfast Telegraph reported last year, at least 3 men who were opposed to the crimes informed MI5 that children were being abused at the Kincora home back in the 1970s, yet nothing was done. The security organization is alleged to have turned a blind eye to the child abuse and blocked police investigations into the home. Many asserted that the British intelligence blackmailed child sex abusers as opposed to prosecuting them, using information about pedophilic activities as leverage to control high-level political figures. Wow, that sounds interesting. That sounds very plausible. Former UK Prime Minister Edward Heath is the latest figure to be accused of being involved in child abuse after news emerged that he is being investigated by 5 police forces. Attempts to set up an objective investigation into the true scale of pedophilia in Britain in their leading institutions are in a disarray, with 2 previous chairs of the so-called independent inquiry into child sex abuse forced to step down due to links to the establishment. How nice. Justice Lowell Goddard, a New Zealand judge, is now leading the inquiry. a job which is reported to have come with a salary of close to £500,000. Wow, a year. How nice. In a nation where high-level corruption is the norm, and so many within the establishment have their hands dirty with the cover-up of crimes, can we really expect any semblance of justice to arise from this investigation? So it seems like Britain isn't much different than we have here, and the criminal politicians and their criminal actions and their lies and their deceptions and their traitorous activities. Is that not true, ladies and gentlemen? Then we have the social engineering of the agenda, normalizing pedophilia. While most ordinary people consider pedophilia to be one of the most repulsive acts imaginable, there are some perturbed individuals who are trying to rebrand the perversion as a normal sexual practice. At a conference held by the University of Cambridge in the summer of 2013, certain academics reportedly argued that pedophilia is a quote-unquote natural and normal practice for males to engage in. The repugnant conference illustrates the fact that some within the top stratum of academia are set on pushing the boundaries of what most people would consider normal behavior. Calls for normalizing pedophilia are not confined to the UK, however, as last year an Australian judge sparked outrage when he stated that society may come to view sexual relations between adults and children as acceptable and no longer unnatural or taboo. The judge added that a jury might find nothing untoward about incest in future years. These people are insane. They're sick. They're truly sick. This is what they call evolving. Is this what it is? Is this Darwinist evolution here? Human evolution? We're evolving into repulsive, disgusting slimes of humanity? Is that what we're doing? Here's a note. Currently here in the U.S., the North American Man-Boy Love Association crowd, also known as NAMBLA, are lobbying for the removal of age of consent laws in an attempt to legalize pedophilia. That's right. With certain individuals pushing for such predatory and disturbing behavior to be considered acceptable, it is essential that people around the world stand up and protect innocent children in the years to come. And these NAMBLA people are, Arthur Ginsburg, okay, these hippies from those days. They're all looked at as these radicals, or these revolutionaries, bring the revolution of the sexual revolution. Oh man, we were all part of it. We all grew up in it. We all went to school, and I went to school in the 80s, man. It was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This is where it came from, man. And they just keep pushing the boundaries, and they just keep pushing the envelope. As crazy it was then, it's really bad now. I mean, really bad. Kids are being given images of, they're turning them into porn stars as soon as they get out of high school. They're ready to go and do porn. It's a disgraceful society. Now, from the UK's pedophile epidemic to its repugnant foreign policy, it is clear that the British establishment is rotten to the core with corruption and is in need of urgent reform. Tell me something I don't know, Steve McMillan, who wrote this article. He's an independent writer, researcher, and a geopolitical analyst. A great article. Links can be found, of course, at howardnema.com and on the description of this video. Westminster should spend less time destabilizing and destroying other nations around the world. It's the Anglo-American establishment. We're doing it together, by the way. These are all the elitists. It's very interesting. That is the Anglo-American establishment, and that's a book, and I'll link to that will be found at the website too, howardnema.com. You should read that book by Carol Quigley, published in 1981, entitled The Anglo-American Establishment. It goes far into it, and then to tie all the pieces together, read Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley, 1966. I'll put a link to that as well on howardnema.com. Because this stuff all ties together. It's really just like a puzzle. Once you put all the pieces together, you can see the picture. It's that simple. Check out Truth Talk News on YouTube and howardnema.com. Also, listen live Saturdays, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on UnitedFMRadio.com.